Hello from the Parenting Network. This is Mr. Deshawn, and I'm a part of Team Relate, Relationship Education Leading Adolescents Toward Empowerment. And I want to welcome you to our Botvin Life Skills lesson, Resolving Conflict. So today we are going to talk about conflict. What does it mean to have conflict? What does that look like? And how do we do our best to learn skills to help reduce that conflict, to de-escalate it, to bring it to a calmer level, or to resolve it, which means to come to some solution that can work for those that are involved. So we really want to start by understanding that we are all unique individuals. We all have our own desires, wants, likes, dislikes, and sometimes they are not in agreement with someone that we're dealing with. It could be a friend, a family member, someone we're working with. So conflict is not a bad thing, but it is very important that we understand how do we work through conflict to come to resolution or to de-escalate it. So again, conflict can become extremely large, and what we're wanting to do is to be able to resolve that conflict so it can become less. So there are two important things that are at stake when we are dealing with most conflicts. One is that each other's goals, so each person has goals and things they want to achieve or accomplish, and so that's at stake, and the relationship itself. So whatever your relationship is with that person, that's also something that has to be considered when you're talking about conflict. So for example, you have chores to do and your friend wants to hang out, and now we have to figure out what works for us, because maybe there's some tension or maybe somebody's feeling left out if they're not hanging out or you're not hanging out with them. So what do we do? So there are sometimes common reactions to conflict. There's striking back, there's giving in, there's breaking off that friendship or relationship, and there are results to each of these choices. So let's take a look at what some of those results can be. So striking back, that means maybe retaliating or going back and forth with a person. So maybe you will achieve your goal, but what about that relationship, right? That might be a damaging factor in a relationship. So if each of you are striking back, that relationship might not continue or might have very, very, very bad outcomes. So let's see, giving in. So maybe your personal goal will not be achieved, and maybe that relationship will be kept fine, but maybe there will be some tension and some animosity and some even regret in how that situation was dealt with. And if you resort to breaking off, then you might find that that goal is not achieved, and it also is very bad for the relationship. So these are things that we have to think about when we deal with our reactions to conflict and what does that look like. And these are often, again, those reactions that are most often our default reactions. We've talked in the past about default reactions, things that we go to automatically, some habits that we've already formed. So are there more ways to resolve a conflict? I think there are, and I'm wondering, can you think of some ways that you might resolve a conflict other than to strike back, to give in, or break off? Well, what about compromise? That is another way to look at resolving conflict, and that would be to give a little to get a little. Each gives up something to gain something. So when you look at that and apply that, then maybe each person will get a little bit of their goal achieved, and it's very possible that that relationship can remain intact and be fine, and you can go forward in that relationship. So compromise might be a good option. And then there's also negotiation. Negotiation changes conflict to cooperation. This is called a win-win. Both sides may get what they want, although the result might be different than when they first thought. So thinking about negotiation and having an idea, okay, maybe we can work something out where we both get what we want, but it might be a little different than what we first thought about. And if you do that effectively, both of you might have an idea of getting your goal met. So new ideas for both getting what they want, and that relationship will probably be in very good shape. So something to really think about is, how do I go from my default settings or my automatic settings of striking back, giving in, or breaking off, to developing a new set of skills where I might look more readily at compromising or negotiating to get what I want or what we want in a situation. Yes, conflict can be very challenging, and sometimes situations create that conflict. So we have our friends here, and they're on a boat rowing, but they both want to row. So maybe they're having some conflict right now about who's going to row first, who's going to row second, or maybe they don't want the other person to row at all. So how can they go about resolving their conflict, right? So how can they go about figuring out what they can do together to make this an easy and smooth boat ride? So we have our friend here, and he's going to mediate this situation. So maybe they can look at helping to calm the situation down by doing some skills that we've learned before, like counting to 10, reframing, or making positive self-statements. So counting to 10, taking that time to silently count to 10 before you say anything or react. Reframing, looking at the situation and saying, okay, maybe we both want to row, but it's not that bad if we take turns. That's reframing the situation. And then making positive I statements. I can resolve this. I can work through this. I can help figure out what we can do to both get what our needs are met. So in this conflict situation, thinking about ways that needs can be met. And it can be stressful, and it can cause anxiety, and it can cause us to feel some type of way about the situation. But anxiety, again, can be controlled and it can be managed. So when anger and anxiety approach in a situation in conflict, we have learned ways to be able to help control that, to breathe through that, to reframe, and all of those wonderful techniques we've learned. So again, with anxiety, you might do some deep breathing. You might do a progressive muscle relaxation. You might do mental rehearsal. So that deep breathing is, again, inhaling slowly all the way into your diaphragm and releasing it slowly. The progressive muscle relaxation is a technique of, again, relaxing your entire body from your toes all the way up to your head, nice and slow, and allowing your body to just feel extremely calm. And that mental rehearsal is, if you have an opportunity before a situation, to play it out in your head, to think about what the outcome might be and how you might handle that outcome. And so making sure that we're paying attention to that. And even when it comes to conflict resolution, learning and understanding the skills of avoiding misunderstanding. So that would be the idea of, how do you send the message that you want? Are you being specific about that message? Are you asking questions? And are you paraphrasing what you're hearing, and also using those I statements? I hear you saying this. I hear you saying that. Being mindful of all of these techniques that can help us when it comes to our conflict resolution. So again, thinking that conflict can increase anger, it can increase anxiety, but we also are in control of ourselves and how we handle those situations. So being very mindful of that, and learning and reminding ourselves that we have these skills, right? We have the skills within ourselves to handle conflict, and remembering our 3 C's as well will help us. So clarifying what the situation might be. So going back to some of our communication skills, considering what the outcomes might be of what we're doing and what we might decide, and then choosing the best option for the situation. So that decision-making aspect of it, what is my situation? What is the conflict? What are the options to help resolve this conflict? And being effective in choosing one of those options that would maybe be best in that conflict. So, thinking about what problem needs to be solved. What are my choices? What are the consequences? What am I going to do? These are all the questions we want to ask ourselves, and come to a decision, and maybe, just maybe, we can come to an agreement, resolve our conflict, and be able to go on about our business. So turning you and me into we. so we are able to accomplish and achieve our goals. So we're able to stay cool, cool off the other person, listen to the other person, stand up for yourself, and being able to do it all while showing respect. That is the ultimate goal, is that when conflict is happening, we want to be able to show respect for the other person and respect for ourselves and be able to solve the problem at hand. If we're able to do this, we will realize that resolving conflicts can be difficult, but if you practice the skills you learn from the Life Skills program, you will have a toolbox with more tools than just a hammer. These skills will help you communicate more effectively to become a leader and succeed in this complex and challenging world. I believe this for you, and I hope that you believe it for yourself, because again, that toolbox that you build for yourself is so important that you'll be able to have other skills and not just rely on your automatic default settings, but you have new tools to work with. So I want to thank you for your time, for listening, and make sure you check out all of our bot vent lessons. Thank you from all of us to all of you. Have a safe summer, and don't forget to wash your hands and enjoy those that are around you. And remember to practice the skills that we've learned. Have a great one. Thank you.